I kissed the school beauty once. She ran a high fever for 3 days and was diagnosed with kissing disease. The whole school said I was poisonous. But even while on an intravenous drip, she defended me. Stop talking nonsense. What if he refuses to kiss me from now on? The fever must have fried her brain. I was about to become her stepfather. When I, the culprit, came to visit Chu Mengmeng at the hospital, she had already been diagnosed with kissing disease. Apparently, she had a high fever for 3 days and felt weak all over. But one part of her was still stubborn. Her mouth. Sure enough, the moment I reached her hospital room, I heard her soft, weakened voice defending me. My health is just bad. It has nothing to do with teaching assistant Lin. Stop talking nonsense. What if he refuses to kiss me from now on? What does she mean? Refuse to kiss her from now on. She makes it sound like I used to kiss her all the time. Did the fever fry her brain, or is she deliberately trying to mess with me? I was about to become her stepfather. I shoved the door open in fury. The next second, I froze, too scared to move. She is rambling again. The doctor said the fever damaged her brain. What are we going to do? Should we tell her mother? Better not. Isn't she fighting with her mother? Then should we notify her father? I saw a stepdad listed in her contacts. Let's try calling him. Then the girls looked up and saw me. Teaching assistant Lin. What are you doing here? We were just about to call Chu Mengmeng's stepfather. After Chu Mengmeng's friend said that, she raised the phone, already dialing. Then my phone rang. I had known Chu Mengmeng's mother for 3 years. The day I first met Chu Mengmeng, she pulled one over on me. She got me soaking wet on the spot too. Teacher, I didn't know the soda would explode. I'm sorry. Chu Mengmeng stood at the stairway in a spaghetti-strap dress, holding a can of soda. It was already half empty, and fizz hissed from the opening. Someone had clearly shaken it on purpose. I looked up at her white dress, splashed with soda, outlining her delicate curves. Then I looked down at myself, drenched through. My white shirt now nearly see-through. I sighed inwardly. No wonder this artsy problem girl had driven off 28 tutors. She did have a great figure. It's fine. Your mother will add compensation for my clothes to my pay. For the money and her beauty. I kept a polite smile. But Chu Mengmeng clearly had no intention of letting me off. So teacher likes money that much. Then can I pay teacher to do something else? She pinned me against the stair railing, tilting her head up slightly. She wore an expression of earnest curiosity, but her eyes glittered with obvious mockery. I sighed softly. This girl was hopeless. She was already an adult and still could not even pretend to be a flirt. She wanted to scare me away. If she wanted to do that, she should at least press right up against me. Why was she leaning so far back? I adjusted my black-rimmed glasses, then leaned toward her with a serious expression. Miss Chu, if the favor you mean is... Chu Mengmeng apparently had not expected me to suddenly move closer. For a moment, her expression turned awkward. The next second, she was completely stunned, because I used both hands to lift her shoulder straps. While she stood there dazed, I leaned close to her ear. Fixing your clothes. I would be happy to help. For free. With that, I casually straightened the strap that had slipped down her shoulder, so her neckline once again covered everything below her collarbone that it should. Then I added, there, dry yourself off. Class is about to start. With that, I ignored her flushed red face. I adjusted my glasses and turned into her room. Actually, I had overheard in the backyard that she planned to get a hotel room with her young boyfriend that night. Her hormones were raging. I understood, but her mother was paying far too well for the coming semester. No matter how many admirers she had, I would cut them all out of her life until she got into Tsinghua or Peking University, and I got my 5 million yuan bonus. Chu Mengmeng finally got into Peking University. Under my intense pressure that semester, I had drained her dry. Forget dating. She barely even had time to sleep. Whenever she had a spare moment, she dropped off to sleep. So her young boyfriend's calls, texts, and video chats were all answered by me. I did not even need to say a word. The second I answered a video call, and they saw my face, there was first silence. Then they hung up instantly. After I cut off more than a dozen potential suitors, Chu Mengmeng's friends started spreading rumors at school. They said the college guy she was keeping had drained her dry. She was furious about it, but her mother was very pleased with me. How pleased was she? Her mother proposed to me. That was the day Chu Mengmeng began military training for the new term. It was also the wonderful day my 5 million yuan bonus arrived. I packed my bags, clutched my fortune, and got ready to get the hell out of there. But Chu Xue suddenly called me into her study. She wore gold-rimmed glasses. her smile carrying a uniquely seductive charm. Time had left no trace on her face. Xiaoyu, are you leaving? I nodded politely. Chu Xue wore a white blouse and a fitted skirt. Her legs were crossed, and her waist was slim enough to circle with one hand. Her curls were casually tucked behind her ear. She was mature and graceful, the very picture of a captivating, commanding female executive. Usually, we spoke from a meter apart, but this time, she unusually moved close to me, even straightening my collar. The way she looked at me was completely different too. It was tender and indulgent. Even a saint would have been dazzled senseless by that look. But I did not even look up. I was busy counting the digits in my account balance. Lin Yu, you really are responsible, excellent teacher. You will surely make a good father, too. I snapped back to myself. Before I could grasp the deeper meaning of her words, the check she offered nearly blinded me. This is 30 million yuan. Will you marry me? I put away my phone and stared at the 30 million yuan check in Chu Xue's hand, along with the contract for our marriage of convenience. I looked a little confused, but my hands knew exactly what to do. I took the contract and signed it at once. I have a compulsive need to hoard money. The more savings I have, the safer I feel. With a windfall like this, hesitating for even a second would disrespect 30 million yuan. As for why Chu Xue wanted to marry me, the agreement spelled it out. I would fob off her relatives, but most importantly, educate her daughter. Everything else in our lives would remain unchanged. We would not interfere with each other. Then I understood. She valued my talent as an educator. She wanted to marry me for Chu Mengmeng's sake. The agreement set the wedding for 1 month later. If nothing went wrong, I was about to become Chu Mengmeng's stepfather. But as I carried the check and contract, walking gleefully out of Chu Xue's room, I ran straight into Chu Mengmeng, back from military training. She wore filthy camouflage fatigues. When she saw my suitcase, panic flashed across her face. She hurried into my arms, wrapping her arms around my waist. Brother, you drove away all my admirers, and now you want to run. I don't care. You have to take responsibility for me. I met her seemingly flirtatious, yet truly innocent and earnest eyes. For once, I was speechless, and I felt a little guilty. Actually, 2 months earlier, I had noticed something off in the way Chu Mengmeng looked at me. It was an intense kind of admiration and obsession, mixed with a powerful possessiveness. But for that 5 million yuan bonus, I did not expose it. Using that as motivation, Chu Mengmeng took first place in her class for the first time. When Chu Xue heard the news, she had her assistant deliver a black card that very day. But Chu Mengmeng snapped the black card in front of the assistant, then threw it into the trash. My heart ached as I stared at that mutilated black card in the trash. I could only sigh that heaven was fair after all. Chu Xue might be a business genius, but she would probably never know what her daughter truly wanted. Sure enough, the mother and daughter's relationship hit rock bottom again. And because of that black card, Chu Mengmeng gave up on herself again. For 3 days and nights, she did not come home. I heard she was out drinking and clubbing with people. After all, I was only a part-time tutor. I had no experience guiding rebellious kids back onto the right path. The only thing I could do was, whenever she went out drinking, to drink all her stash liquor beforehand. And whenever she went clubbing, I stayed glued to her side, chasing off everyone who tried to hit on her. That night, Chu Mengmeng came storming back. She burst into my room and stared at me expressionlessly for a long time. I casually showed her my cabinet full of empty bottles. I poured her more than half a bottle of iced cola and handed it to her. She smiled and said, "You're really something." Then she slammed the door and left. 5 minutes later, she came back with her backpack and notebooks. Her smile was sweet and harmless. "Brother, it has been ages since you drained me dry. We're pulling an all-nighter tonight." After coming back, Chu Mengmeng needed only 1 month to rise from first in her class to first in her entire grade. I could not help but marvel. Some people can be covered in mud and cast into the dust, but crack open the smallest gap, and they will shine. With my 5 million yuan bonus within reach, I made a rare effort and had someone overseas custom make her favorite luxury designer gown. It hurt to spend the money, but it was a necessary investment. After Chu Mengmeng received it, she treasured it and put it away in her closet. She came to me with a smug expression, leaning closer with a teasing half-smile. "You really understand me, brother. But more than the dress, I want something of yours even more." She stopped speaking there, only tilting her head up to stare straight at me. As for the fact that she never called me teacher, I had gotten used to it. After all, We were only 5 years apart. I could not be bothered correcting her. I put on my professional smile and looked down at her with a knowing half-smile. My tone was no different from humoring a spoiled brat. It was only an offhand attempt to provoke her. I never expected her to turn things around overnight. After all, the college entrance exam was the next day. I was even worried whether she could meet Tsinghua or Peking University's admission cutoff. But I never expected this to work better than staying up all night preparing 10 lesson plans. Chu Mengmeng actually became #1 in the entire country overnight. June 25th. On the night the results were released, Chu Mengmeng skipped dinner and dragged me into her room. The summer night was sweltering. She pinned me against the wall behind the door, tilting her head up. On her lovely, alluring face, her eyes shone like stars. "Brother, you said it yourself. You'd give me anything I wanted. Time to make good on that, right?" As she said it, her red lips parted slightly. Her face flushed with shy sweetness. She held an inexplicable allure beyond her years. I was trapped between the door and her delicate body. Each breath carried her faint, youthful fragrance. Then I suddenly realized it. I'd been played. A failing student? With skills like these, she had clearly been hiding her true abilities. But right now, no one could resist the charm of a gorgeous high school girl like her. And I certainly did not want to. After all, she was the reason I'd earned that 5 million yuan bonus. Of course, I would not go back on my word. "Go on. What do you want?" When I said that, I was already prepared for Chu Mengmeng to make some outrageous demand. But I never expected it to be this outrageous. Chu Mengmeng's request was, "I'll tell you next time." Disappointed, everyone? But don't be disappointed yet, because 2 months later, today, Chu Mengmeng once again cornered me at this familiar stairwell landing. I still had the marriage agreement from her mother hidden behind my back. This time, she finally made the request she had held back before. "So you mean, you'll give me 30 million yuan to be your temporary boyfriend and attend Peking University's opening ceremony with you at 9:10 on the morning after tomorrow?" I smiled on the outside, but inside, I was screaming, "What the hell?" Well, this was just perfect. Matching 30 million yuan payments would have been one thing. I could even accept being both a contract husband and a contract boyfriend. But why did this mother and daughter even schedule me for the exact same minute? The marriage agreement said that at 9:10 the morning after tomorrow, Chu Xue would take me to the family estate to meet the elders and discuss the wedding. It was utterly absurd. Chu Mengmeng noticed my expression and immediately frowned. She grabbed my collar with both hands. "What is it, brother? Do you think 30 million isn't enough?" As the notification chimed that 30 million had arrived, my professional payment received smile returned. Only this time, it was a little stiff. Could we just change the time? The two of them were nothing alike, except for their obsessively exact sense of timing. Every schedule had to be planned down to the minute and second. Chu Mengmeng stared straight at me, still clutching my collar. She forced me to meet her shimmering, captivating eyes. "Why change the time? Do you have plans with someone else, brother?" That tone carried a threat anyone could hear. I looked calm, but my heart was pounding wildly. "Yes, exactly. And the person I was meeting was your mother." But I obviously could not say that aloud. For 60 million yuan, I was determined to become a master of scheduling. No one else could possibly matter more than Mengmeng. "I'll show up dressed to the nines." I deliberately emphasized dressed to the nines. Chu Mengmeng was used to seeing me in t-shirts and shorts, so this rebellious girl's eyes lit up. Only then did she leave, satisfied. After sending Chu Mengmeng away, I went back to knock on Chu Xue's door. Since her daughter refused to change the time, I'd have to work on her mother instead. I lowered my head and pressed the doorbell in the center of the door, as I thought over what I would say. But as I kept pressing, I realized the texture felt wrong, soft and springy, and slightly damp. I instantly looked up. I saw my index finger pressed against Chu Xue's shoulder, still beaded with water. I snatched my hand back like lightning, my face burning red. I ran a hand through my hair. Ding, my innocent college boy persona was officially activated. For a woman like Chu Xue, used to domineering CEOs in high society, an occasional contrast like this was what made me feel fresh to her. Once she found me interesting, she would not hesitate to spend money. On my little request, Chu Xue wore only a bath towel, her slender, fair hands gently drying her hair. Seeing me pretend to be calm, she glanced down at my wandering hand. For once, her cool, distant face showed a teasing smile. "Lin Yu, how did it feel?" I gave a dry cough. The tips of my ears turned even redder, though I kept my expression composed. "Very nice. If you want me to write a review of how it felt after touching you, I can even turn it into a slide presentation. But it'll cost extra. Chu Xue laughed softly. A glistening droplet slid down her chest, and she casually wiped it away. Her expression was casual, but her words struck like thunder. Fine, I'll give you 100,000 yuan. And while you're at it, write one for Mengmeng too. My expression nearly cracked. She knew. Just as I was about to speak, my phone suddenly vibrated. I quickly lowered my head, pretending to check it, while frantically thinking of a response. There were security cameras in the villa. On my first day here, Chu Xue saw on the security footage that I helped her daughter adjust her shoulder strap. If it was that day, Chu Mengmeng was the one who deliberately teased me. Once I figured that out, I calmed down. All right, boss. What you meant just now was 100,000 per report, right? Chu Xue did not answer. She casually glanced at my phone. It's Mengmeng. I looked down, and it really was a message from Chu Mengmeng. It was a sticker of an affectionate little cat. The kitten in it was eagerly rubbing against its owner's hand. It looked adorable. The text beneath it read, "Brother, can you wear this suit for me the day after tomorrow? They say the stepdad look is trendy right now." There was even a parenthesis: "If you don't like it, brother, forget I said anything." If I did not know that Chu Mengmeng never spoke to her family, and that Chu Xue had not told her about the engagement, I might have thought that stepdad outfit comment was a jab at me. What was up with this mother and daughter? Every word they said made my heart race. I casually sent a sticker to brush her off. Then I received another Alipay transfer notification. 100,000 yuan received. The note read, "For brother to buy clothes he likes." She had deliberately emphasized, "You like." I smiled without thinking. Chu Xue watched me smile at my phone, and returned to that seemingly gentle, but truly cold and distant expression. "It seems you two are very close." I immediately sensed it. Chu Xue wasn't happy, but I was not vain enough to think she was jealous of her own daughter. Even if she really was jealous, she was probably jealous of me. After all, everyone except Chu Mengmeng knew how much Chu Xue valued her daughter, and wanted to mend their relationship. "We are very close. Isn't that what you wanted most, boss?" I asked with feigned innocence. She was willing to spend a fortune to marry me, only because Chu Mengmeng could accept me. So, what was this about now? Sure enough, Chu Xue did not press further. She looked up at me, and suddenly sighed. "Lin Yu, I've told Mengmeng to return to the ancestral home with us the day after tomorrow. It's time you started calling me your wife." I understood at once why Chu Mengmeng had chosen the exact same time. She did not want to meet me, her future stepfather. Or perhaps she already knew, and was deliberately trying to steal her mother's man. Help? Why was earning the 60 million yuan so hard? Even with such blatant financial temptation before me, there was not much reason left in me but going to the Chu family dinner as her stepfather, with my contract wife and contract girlfriend at my side, was insane no matter how I looked at it. Of course, money had to be made, but I had to live long enough to spend it. Fighting the agonizing urge to return the 30 million yuan, I abruptly pushed Chu Xue away. "Boss," before I could voice my refusal, another transfer notification sounded. Chu Xue folded her arms, watching me with a knowing smile. "This is a separate fee, right?" I stared at the extra 1 million yuan in my account, and swallowed. They say wealth should not corrupt a man. A person should have principles. I looked down at Chu Xue, my gaze resolute. "Wife," but she was offering far too much. On the day of the family dinner, Chu Xue picked me up and tossed me a custom-tailored suit. Once I put it on, I realized, good grief, it was the very stepdad-style outfit Chu Mengmeng had picked for me. This mother and daughter were usually at odds, but when it came to dealing with me, they made quite a team. I forced myself out of the fitting room, and met Chu Xue's smiling eyes. She walked straight over to me, looped her arm through mine, and whispered in my ear, "Mengmeng will definitely like it." That could be taken any number of ways, but with all these coincidences together, it was hard not to read into it. I now had every reason to suspect that I was merely a pawn in their little mother-daughter game. As the current head of the Chu family, Chu Xue's engagement was naturally a major event. By the time we reached the ancestral home, the banquet hall was already full. Chu Xue took my hand and led me to the head table. I noticed the last seat to my left was still empty. There was no need to guess. It had been reserved for Chu Mengmeng, but as the agreed time approached, she still had not arrived. Chu Xue checked her phone with a dark expression, then summoned the butler, and signaled that we would wait no longer. The dinner began at once. Soon, glasses clinked around the table, and empty pleasantries filled the air. I kept smiling along, while sneaking glances at the empty seat. My palms were slightly sweaty. I had no idea whether Chu Mengmeng would come today. After Chu Xue told me we were returning to the ancestral home, Chu Mengmeng sent me a message. She said our plans were cancelled. She vented to me angrily for ages, saying she had even custom-ordered a new dress to show me. And now that was ruined too. I cautiously asked whether she would attend the family dinner. She did not answer directly. She just kept sending angry kitten stickers. What does her engagement have to do with me? That guy may be young, but he's got big ambitions. He took 30 million yuan from my mom the moment they met. How could he be any good? I heard he's a graduate student at the same school as you, brother. I bet he's another pretty boy after a rich older woman. She really was investigating her future stepfather. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly sent an awkward laughing sticker. Haha, maybe there's some misunderstanding. She was indignant. What misunderstanding? I've seen plenty of men like him. Once I uncover his true colors, I'll make sure he's completely ruined. I shuddered all over. Guiltily, I sent back a sticker, not daring to say another word. By the time the banquet was halfway through, Chu Mengmeng still had not appeared. After all, it was the first day of school, so she probably had plenty to do there. She probably would not come. Once I was sure of that, the heart lodged in my throat finally eased a little. Just then, someone at the table asked about the wedding plans for Chu Xue and me. I'd taken the money, so I had to play my part well. I quickly put on a smile and put an arm around Chu Xue's shoulders. We're still working out the details, but I fully respect Xue's decisions. My wife comes first. Before the final syllable of wife had fully faded, the banquet hall doors suddenly opened. Before I could react, someone at the table called out warmly, "Mengmeng, you're finally here." My professional fake smile instantly froze on my face. My heart dropped. Well, great. That was not Chu Mengmeng arriving. It was the Grim Reaper. I was holding Chu Xue with my back to the doors, and the back of my head went numb. I did not dare turn around. My mind raced desperately, calculating the odds of leaving the Chu family estate alive today. For her to come now, she must have uncovered my identity. Chu Mengmeng hated being lied to more than anything. With that spoiled heiress temper of hers, she would definitely cause a scene right here. My playing both sides would be exposed before the entire Chu family on the spot. Returning the money would be the least of my problems. Chu Mengmeng would surely use the school to pressure me too. Then I would not only fail to graduate, I would truly be ruined. My left hand gripped my pants tightly. It felt as if my blood were running backward, and I could barely breathe. Disaster was upon me now. I wanted to slap myself senseless. Lin Yu, you really would risk your life for money. Chu Mengmeng's heels clicked behind me, drawing closer with every step. They stopped behind me. I remained stiff in my seat, too afraid to turn my head. Silence hung in the air for several seconds, but it felt like centuries. I closed my eyes and swallowed. If this was the calm before the storm, then forget it. Just put me out of my misery already. In the end, Chu Xue broke the deadlock. She looked at her later arriving daughter, her expression unreadable. Mengmeng, I do not need to introduce him, do I? You do know each other well. The words "know each other well" were heavily emphasized, but I had no attention to spare for that. All I felt was Chu Mengmeng's gaze boring into my back. I could not endure this torment any longer. Just as I braced myself to face death and confront her head-on, a pair of soft, fair hands rested on the back of the chair to my left. She pulled out the chair and sat down. "Oh," Chu Mengmeng answered blandly, saying nothing more. With my heart in my throat, I turned to look at her. She lowered her head slightly, staring at her plate. Her alluring peach blossom eyes showed no emotion, making her impossible to read. The Chu relatives on her other side exchanged a few pleasantries with her. She replied with a smile, looking perfectly normal. The banquet continued. Everyone went on drinking and toasting, leaving me trapped between mother and daughter, drenched in sweat, whether deliberately or not. After Chu Mengmeng arrived, Chu Xue kept serving me food and pouring me water, but every time she served me something, I would hear Chu Mengmeng's chopsticks slam hard into her porcelain plate. The sound was deafening. I sat there like I was on pins and needles. Just as I was looking for a chance to slip out for some air, Chu Xue suddenly took my hand. "Aunt, is this the ring you meant?" I pulled quite a few strings to get it at auction, but fortunately, it was only 50 million yuan. She intertwined her fingers with mine, openly displaying the wedding ring to everyone present. I jolted violently, but not because I heard 50 million. nor because Chu Xue suddenly laced her fingers with mine. It was because a hand, under the table, suddenly slid onto my thigh. The moment Chu Xue finished speaking, everyone at the table voiced their envy. A few older uncles also began asking me where I planned to work after graduation. But those two hands had stolen all my focus. I could only give distracted, vague answers. Chu Xue's sharp, phoenix-like eyes flicked toward me. She squeezed my hand and whispered in my ear, "You took the money, so play your part properly." I swallowed, forcing out a smile, then nodded. Meanwhile, the hand beneath the table grew even bolder. It even began to tease the hem of my shirt. The mother and daughter kept making little moves, as if they were roasting me over a fire. Just as I was about to break down, the conversation suddenly turned to Chu Mengmeng. An older female cousin suddenly asked, "By the way, Mengmeng, didn't you say you had found true love and finally settled down? When will you bring your boyfriend home for us to meet?" I froze. Instinctively, I turned to look at her. Chu Mengmeng noticed my gaze. The hand on my thigh paused, then gave me a light squeeze. She smiled and said, "Actually, I brought him today too." My scalp prickled instantly. If their hands had not pinned me to the chair, I would have jumped right out of it. At her words, the Chu family were completely baffled, glancing at one another. They had not seen her bring anyone else. Chu Mengmeng curled her lips, her gaze brushing over me as if by accident. "Far away, yet right in front of you." Something flashed in Chu Xue's eyes. She looked straight at me. There were not many men present. Of those unrelated to Chu Mengmeng and of an eligible age, I was the only one. After the others just looked around, their eyes gradually settled on me too. I instantly became the center of attention. Under everyone's stares, my mental defenses crumbled bit by bit. I could only scream curses in my head. "Well played, Chu Mengmeng. You came in and kept quiet, and I thought you had finally learned to behave. Who knew you were setting me up for this? You were trying to land a killing blow. If they exposed me for two timing right now, and the two women were a biological mother and daughter from the Chu family, even 10 lives would not be enough to save me." The older female cousin gave me an unreadable look as well. "You do not mean..." My legs trembled, and cold sweat seeped from the hand clutching my chopsticks. Chu Mengmeng smiled. "That's right. My new sports car. I parked it in the garage. Cousin, haven't you always wanted to try it? I'll let you drive it later." Everyone paused, then burst into laughter. They said that despite being a Chu heiress, Chu Mengmeng had liked boys' things since childhood. Now she even called her beloved car her boyfriend every day. They had not expected her, even at an occasion like this, to joke around with everyone. Only I slowly put down my chopsticks, quietly rubbing my numb fingers, and forcing a stiff smile. Amid the commotion, Chu Mengmeng looked at me, her eyes full of mischief. Chu Xue's shrewd, fox-like eyes, honed in the business world, also moved back and forth between Mengmeng and me. With clear scrutiny, I wailed miserably inside. Some money just is not worth earning. Once I survive this ordeal, I will put greed aside and quit chasing money for good. When the conversation turned to the family business, I took the chance to make an excuse and step outside for air. Just as expected, the moment I left, Chu Mengmeng followed right behind me. Before I could explain, she yanked me into a small room nearby. She slammed the door shut. She pinned me against the door, pressing herself close. Her soft body filled my arms at once. We were far too close, our breaths tangling together. I could even feel the warmth of her body. I collected myself and silently looked down at her. Chu Mengmeng glared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Her eyes held pain and anger I had never seen before. I swallowed nervously. She was, after all, a wealthy heiress. If I pushed her too far, she might truly ruin me. I cleared my throat, planning to soften my tone and explain. But she suddenly lowered her head and buried her face in my chest. Her soft-haired head nuzzled against me, like an obedient little kitten. Her voice was hurt, yet coaxing. "Big brother, is this why you could not attend the opening ceremony with me? I do not blame you. That old woman must have forced you, right?" After saying that, she spoke indignantly. "She actually paid you to put on an act. That is outrageous. It is an insult to your dignity." My mouth twitched. Had she not once told me that a man so young, yet willing to take 30 million from her mother, was no good? Why had her opinion changed completely now? She lifted her head from my chest and stared at me with her shining, flirtatious eyes. Her tone turned suggestive. "Big brother, playing along with that old woman must be boring. Choose me instead. I am prettier, and I promise you will be satisfied." As she spoke, She took my hand and guided it to her slender waist. Her figure was delicate and curvaceous. Her skin soft and flawless. Her warmth seared my palm. For a moment, I lost myself. I let her guide my arms around her waist, looking down at her gentle, pleading eyes. My heartbeat suddenly skipped. We had been close before, but this time, I did not think I could remain unmoved any longer. I opened my mouth, just about to speak. Lin Yu, where did you go? Chu Xue's voice suddenly came from outside the door. It instantly snapped me back to reality. I panicked and reached to push Chu Mengmeng away, but she seemed to have expected it. She clung tightly to my waist and pressed me firmly against the door. Big brother, after feeling me up, you want to run? As Chu Xue's footsteps drew closer, I grew frantic. Struggling, I whispered irritably, let me go, now. If your mother finds us, we are finished. A tutor becoming your stepfather? No big deal. A tutor becoming your mother's son-in-law? Also no big deal. But being both your stepfather and your mother's son-in-law, now that is a real problem. Chu Mengmeng was completely unmoved. She raised a brow and kept me pinned. She looked thoroughly entertained. Chu Xue stopped outside the door. Terrified, I held my breath. I silently prayed that she would leave, but my worst fear came true. The next second, the doorknob turned. Lin Yu, are you in there? My heart dropped. I squeezed my eyes shut, wishing I could vanish from the world at once.